Welcome to this edition of the Million Dollar Mastermind podcast. This is where we pick the brains of high achievers from all walks of life and get their hard-earned, real-world insights on winning. I'm your host, Larry Weidel. So, when you're saying, what was your opening hook to basically, here's who I am, here's what we have, interested or not?
Yeah, what was the script? Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I learned how to cold call on Cisco systems. So it was my first.
People are going to have to, that start businesses are not aware of this. You got to sell. You got to start a business. You got to sell.
You got to sell.
If you hit a plateau or if you're introducing a new product that's in a little bit different groove or niche than you've been, you're going to get off your butt and you sell. You got to prospect. Everybody's got a prospect, and so that's why I spend a little time on this.
Yeah, no, of course. So we would the way I would start, and I wouldn't do it this way today if I started over. But I would just, smile and dial. I would pick up the phone. I'd dial the number if somebody connected. Hi, my name is Jonathan DeYoe. I'm with Dean Witter. We're an investment firm. We got an office downtown San Francisco. We've got some good research that suggests that Cisco Systems is a good buy at this price. Do you invest in stocks? Yeah, I invest in stocks. Well, great. Do you have a second? Can I tell you about Cisco Systems? I own some Cisco Systems. Great. Well, then I have, two different stocks I could talk about that are good diversifiers for Cisco Systems. Oh, I don't own Cisco Systems. Oh, great. Let me tell you about Cisco Systems. Or, you know what? I don't own stocks. Well, let me tell you about this municipal bond we're offering. So you'd have you just have a list of things. Yeah. You didn't care. You didn't care if somebody bought or didn't buy. Right. You wanted a connection, somebody you could call back with the next idea. And if you've seen the movie, what is the movie with oh my God, what Wall Street movie? Leonardo DiCaprio.
The Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, Wolf of Wall Street. Yeah, that is so. The stuff they talk about is actually how you're trained. You have to have the backups. You have to do this. You're very, it's very interesting process. But today, you still got to reach out people. You want to make connections. And so
you have to make connections.
You got to make you got to meet people. You got to talk to people. You got to get them to talk to you. You got to get them to respond. So back in the day, it was phone. Today, it would be networking. It would be going to the Rotary Club. It'd be and that's kind of how, the second iteration of the business, when I finally did start my own company, that's how I built it. It's just by building relationships in my local community. And it was a pretty good size, medium sized practice by the time I merged it, but it was still very local. We're 85% Oakland, Berkeley, California. I mean, very local.
Yeah. It's amazing also today, the explosion in entrepreneur type groups in these different areas where they'll get in, new budding entrepreneurs will get in and share ideas and network. It's a little more specific. Like they have, like the mastermind type things. But if you get out and you check, you can find there's probably a lot of those going on in your area. Oh, yeah. And it goes back to what Proverbs says: if you want friends, you've got to show yourself friendly, and you got to go in with a smile on your face. If you're a happy guy, put a smile on your face, because other than that, people don't know.
Right. And so this is the core. This is the lesson I learned from 5 years at the bigger firms. Is I didn't get referrals. It was all cold call. It's cold call. It's hammer out every day. Cold call. But if you network and you treat people right, you get referrals. And that, whether you're a painting contractor or a carpet cleaner or a wealth advisor, it's the referrals that you want. It is happy clients. So how do you make happy clients? Well, you treat them like kings and queens. You take care of them. You make sure that you're honest. You make sure you follow up. You make sure you do what you say. And if you do those things,
you do some extras, surprise.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the thing is like this, and this, since we're on this, we might as well nail this down. The reason to cold call is to get yourself into referrals. That's the way the smart people move. They're like, I gotta brutalize myself for a period of time to where I can build up a client base, a friend base, or whatever that know me, feel good about me, to where I can get referrals. And once you get into referrals, your percentages go up because it's warm, not cold. And so let's talk about now. You started your firm, and was that what's the nastiest thing that happened to you before you started your firm? You're in your time up the lot, kind up there, the most, the one that got you to the bone, or you come up where you're like, oh, this is a different world. This is not grad school anymore. And everything that people say to me is not necessarily, I can't necessarily take that at face value. People, they say they're going to do that. The company says they're going to do this for me or whatever. You've already mentioned one of them where the company, they wouldn't, they had, you found out the ugly underbelly, and they weren't going to change, but what were things was there anything that shook you early on that forced you to I better get real now. I'm not in school. I'm not a professor. And this is the thing now that I want to bring out, Jonathan, why I'm such a maniac with the people that work with me on these calls about getting people who have done real things, because this is the stuff that makes entrepreneurs, they get hit in the face. They go through that thing, and professors don't do it. Employees don't do it. If you're an employee, I don't care if you're CEO, you are an employee.
Yep.
And, you face the challenges, but it's not like, it's all going to come tumbling down. You're going to come down as a CEO and walk away with your $100 million in options and this, that, and the other that you've been salting away for the last 5 years. Or, pardon me, $500 million in options now in this economy. And so an employee, a CEO, anybody who works for a corporation is not an entrepreneur. And so they can tell you a limited type thing. But going through this, the guy who starts the business and goes through that thing, you learn that stuff, but you get a lot of exposure early on because you're on commission.
Right.
When you're working there, you're on commission. And so that's what's different as you were working in there rather than being on salary. So did you go through any of that? I saw a little flash in your eye, like you something came back to you.
Yeah, there's two stories of you can't believe it. One of them I already mentioned, and that's the overpriced. We're actually charging 1.2%, but we're telling clients we're charging 1%. Like that actually happened at a Wall Street firm, and we tried to report on it, and everyone lined up to defend it, and I was just like, I can't deal with that. But the big one, this was the first year. Maybe it's my second year in the business. And I kind of alluded to this, but there was a darling of the firm, and he had come to the firm from one of the local banks. And when he came to the firm from the local bank, he brought with him a CD, and the CD, like a disc. You remember the discs you used to put in the computer, that disc that had data on it. And the data it had on it was all of the CDs that were maturing at the bank that he left. So I knew that this is what he used to build his business. So I knew that he had sort of illegal data to help him build his business. And as a trainee, I went in with him and I listened to him and I cold called for him. And I listened to him sell when he had a meeting. So he was like a training person for us. But then you fast forward like 6-8 months, and I'm working Monday through Saturday and a half day on Sunday, right? You work 90-hour weeks. It was ridiculous how much you worked. But I'm in on a Saturday, and there's like 5 of us that come into the office on a Saturday, and it's busy. It is crazy busy, and they're shredding papers. And we're like, what the hell is going on? And you got to just kind of ask some questions. You peek under the hood. You try to figure out what's going on. Turned out that a lot of the investment recommendations that had been made by this guy you couldn't back up the recommendation with the paperwork that was signed. So they were altering the paperwork after the fact. Right. So movies are made of this stuff, right? So it was kind of sick. That was the first indication. And I left that firm like within 6 months of that little activity, trying to find a new place to go. But what I discovered after 5 of them, they're all the same, or at least they were 5 years ago. They're all the same.
And no offense, folks, but when you turn these things into the regulatory, environment, they don't want to see it. They don't want to bring this stuff up. And it's usually, if you're going to be a whistleblower, you're going down. Show me of a place in any industry where the whistleblower, it turns into, they build a statue for him in the lobby.
Yeah,
No, doesn't happen.
No.
And so, it's great to be a whistleblower. Somebody's got to do it. Try and find a way to do it anonymously and get out of there. Get yourself another job or get your own company like Jonathan did. And so one choice you said is, I'm not going to fight it. I'm not going to try and reinvent the industry. I've been to 5 companies. This is the way it is. Be a waste of time to go to the regulatory people. It would only hold them back for a little bit. This podcast, I can say what I want. It's kind of like making the Bidens, stop taking corrupt funds. It's like, yeah, you might stop the next $1 million payment, but anyway, just kidding. We all love the Bidens. But there's a certain, how the river is roaring down the Amazon River. It roars in a certain direction. And you're smart enough to realize one person can only do so much.
Yep.
And you try and do what you can. If you're in a position where you can disrupt the world, go ahead. Try and do it anonymously, though, as much as possible, so you don't get the vengeance down on your head because there's a lot of people. What we found, there was one thing in our company where we found out that they were accepting processing during, this hurricane went through South Carolina, and it just went right up through and destroyed South Carolina. And after that, there was a boom in business in the life insurance side. And there was like 14 Marilyn Monroes at one address on Mockingbird Lane. She bought hundreds of thousands of dollars of insurance. And Clark Gable, he bought a ton of stuff. And there's all of this business turned out, it was like, what the crap is, when they finally, the persistency thing came crashing down, because it's funny that those Marilyn Monroes defaulted on their payments, because they were fantasy anyway. And so eventually all of this started to unravel. And the guys who were in charge, they lied under oath about the things they said. We talked, we did this, we'd never allow that. And it's like, well, I couldn't believe the lies that people will do. So anyway, you do the smart thing, to protect themselves, and it'd be your best friend will lie against you in that situation to save their butt, Yep. So you have to look out for yourself. And you did that. You found that. And we spent a lot of time on that because you're a hardworking guy.
Yeah.
You were working and you were doing well, I imagine.
Yep.
But that's not good enough, folks. It's not good enough. You've got to have the right environment, because eventually it will bring you down.
Yeah, I often wonder what would the size of my business be had I just ignored all the crap and put my head down and just kept going forward. Like I just had momentum, just kept going forward, kept learning how to do the business better, and ignored the environment. I'm sure I would have, I ended with like 350 million before I merged. I'm sure I would be at $1 billion, thing if I just, because I moved a whole bunch of times, and every time you move, you got to repaper accounts, you got to bring clients with you, it's every time it's a do-over. You got to learn new systems. You got to learn, what does this company offer? All that stuff is brand new. So starting over 5 times, but it's the right thing to do. And at the end of the day, my clients are better off, my family's better off, and I am proud of what I do. I'm happy.
Yeah. And so talk about launching your company. What was that all about? And what went well, what didn't go well? Because you had some pretty good assumptions about how to do this thing now.
It's I like how you called it a company. It wasn't really a company at that point. It was me in a basement. That's really
it was an idea.
It was a concept at best.
Yeah.
You know what? I joined the Berkeley Chamber of Commerce. I was like, Dad, I know how to cold call, but I don't know how to run a business. I got a computer. I got a laptop computer. I plugged it in at my house. I joined the Berkeley Chamber of Commerce. I actually hired a guy to cold call for me, and we cold call with each other, right? We had a little bit we ended up not doing the work and talking about other stuff.
Right.
He was a genius. He was. literally a genius. Like he's founded a couple companies now. I'm an investor in one of his companies. I'm really excited about that. But we talked, we just shoot the shit. We wouldn't really get a lot of cold calling done, but it was through the networking at that point and talking to people and treating them well. And I found this group called BNI, Business Networking International. There were no chapters available in my area, so I started a new chapter and gathered 15 other business people in 15 different professions. And we started a chapter and we met every single week, and we all pooled our networks together. And I know somebody that cleans pools. Do you? Oh, shit, you need this person? Great. Let me introduce you to this person. Or I know someone that does insurance. Here, you want some insurance? Great. I know a realtor. Here's a realtor, right? So you just introduce people across with these small business people. And I got, my first 5 years from 0 to probably 75 clients just by networking and working with that. And that's when things kicked off. I mean, that's when really you started getting momentum, started getting referrals. Those referrals started to be to more complex cases, and by the way, wealth grows. So if you have it and it grows revenues. So these clients got bigger. They retired and rolled over a 401k into an IRA. So it's just, you treat people well, they stay. You treat people well, they introduce new people. And that for me, that's what made it work.
Did every single client stay with you?
I have lost more clients to death than I've lost to leaving. I have lost probably I can count them on one hand how many clients I've lost in my career who've gone someplace else. That has happened. One guy, oh my God, it killed me. He was a client for 11 years. His name was Larry. I love Larry. Larry and I had lunch together. He was a great guy. But he was sensitive to the fees that advisors charge, right, which is smart. I get it, right? We're not cheap. And his wasn't a very complex case, but we were friends. It was so, and then he said, Jonathan, I'm really sorry. I can't justify the fee anymore. I'm like, all right, I get it. I love you. You have a great life. Let's go to lunch some other time. That was the only one that really stung when that one left. But it happens. Like it's got to happen.
Thanks for listening to the Million Dollar Mastermind. If you felt there were any valuable takeaways from this episode, please take a minute and leave us a 5-star review. Your feedback is important and really helps us get the word out to a wider audience. Remember, we have a valuable webinar that is absolutely free. Register for it right now at weidelonwinning.com. Thanks for listening.